Max Friedlander, a respected art historian, wrote in 1929 that it is indeed an error to collect a forgery, but it is a sin to stamp a genuine piece with a seal of falsehood. Art is a prominent part of every person's life, and is prized, sold for millions, fought over, and sometimes even killed for. Because of its relevance to everyone, I will take you on a brief journey of the history, development, and detection of art forgery. I will present the role of forgeries in the past, specifically in Rome in Renaissance time, and how it began. I will show how art forgery has become a modern obsession and has led to the development of new fields. I will end with defining the different levels of art forgery and explain some methods in detecting different forgeries. So first, let's go back to when art was sought after so highly that it sparked the history of art forgery as we know it today. Author Thomas Hoving, the director of the Metropolitan Museum of Art, wrote a book titled False Impressions, from which the article History of Art Forgery was written. In this article, Hoving outlines for us how it all began in Rome. During Roman times, there was a demand for Greek sculptures, and because of this demand, there grew an industry of forging those sculptures. This was easy to do at the time because a lot of artists didn't sign their work. There was also a different attitude towards copying work in Roman times versus other times throughout history. This attitude during the Roman era was that of flattery to be copied. The praise of copied work continued for a while, and there are even some rare accounts in history where masters have signed forgeries because they thought it was so good that it deserved it. However, this was more likely to happen in the Renaissance era. Moving into the Renaissance, there was another big boom in the demand for art, causing once again an influx in art forgeries. During this time, there was better education on detection based on style, but there was still a lack in the technology that was available. The attitude towards forgery has continued to change. As we move closer to modern times, art forgery has become very offensive and considered a serious crime. Copying someone else's work is not only a thing of the past, but has grown to be a modern obsession which has led to the development of new academic and professional fields. In the article written by Brian Bethune in 2015, Could art forgeries be even better than the real thing? He outlines for us what art forgery looks like today and how the world responds to it. Today, the majority of countries recognize forgery and art forgery as a crime and a serious offense. There are contradictions to this, though, through popular media, such as movies like How to Steal a Million, made in 1966, The Thomas Crown Affair, made in 1999, and shows like White Collar, which aired its last episode in 2014. These sort of medias glamorize the life of an art forger, which Bethune seems to almost support, saying that many real-life forgers still have lucrative careers even after being captured and imprisoned. There is an example of a man named Tom von Meeren, who is the real-life equivalent that many stories and movies get their main character from. He is best known for forging Vermeers, and has stayed notorious in the art world because of it. He was caught, however, because of technology, but still remained famous, and his paintings continue to be desired because of how famous the entire situation made him and his work. Forging artwork used to be relatively easy, but with the development of new technology and dating techniques, forging art has become increasingly more difficult. With the rise of technology, there has been a rise in the fields related to art forgery. If you are interested in detecting forgeries, you could be part of a team of professionals that museums use to determine if something is fake or not, be part of an insurance firm, or be a private consultant for a private collector. The entire playing field has changed with forgery because of how many professions there are out to catch them. The changes in technology have revolutionized the detection of forgeries, but also the definition of what a forgery is. The Encyclopedia Britannica defines art forgery as a work of literature, painting, or sculpture that purports to be the work of someone other than its true maker. Taking the definition of art forgery to another level, there are two different classifications of forgery. Thomas Hoving, in his bulletin titled The Game of Duplicity for the Metropolitan Museum of Art in 1967, wrote on the distinction of different classifications and styles of forgery. One is hardcore forgery, which is the direct decision to create a piece of work to fool with the intent of deception. The other is misattribution, which is artwork from the same place as its attributed artist, but is not actually made by that artist. This is then discovered, but then labeled a fake. Misattribution is a tricky field that is defined by opinion and interpretation to determine whether something is a fake or not. Now, underneath the banner of forgery, there are 3 different types that Hoving outlines. The first is a direct copy. This being the easiest to detect is where an artist simply copies the original artist's work. The second hardest to detect is the pastiche. With this method, the forger patches together different pieces from the original artist's work, instead of copying only one piece. The third and hardest to detect is the evocation. With this method, the forger is trying to capture the essence of the artist, and is trying more to copy the artist than any one painting. Because of this, the forger usually gets the feel of the artist and their work, making it harder for detection. However, there is still the element of technology. According to Jahan Ragai from the chemistry department of the University in Cairo, in his 2013 article titled "The Scientific Detection of Forgery in Paintings," he says that there are many ways to use technology to help detect a forgery, specifically 3 different ways. The first is provenance, which is the lineage or paper trail of a piece of art, and forgers will come up with wild stories to explain not having a solid provenance, or they will forge the paperwork to go along with their forged painting. The second is stylistic, and this refers to the style of the piece of work and if it really matches the artist it is claimed to be made by. This is where art historians play a huge role. The last is science, and is broken down into 3 more categories or examinations. There is the surface examination, the underpainting, and the examination of the body. The surface examination uses UV light to detect cracks in the painting. The underpainting examination uses X-ray, radiography, and infrared reflectography to see what's under the painting and if it matches the area it is supposed to be from. The last is the examination of the body. To do this, there are many techniques, including Raman spectroscopy and gamma ray spectroscopy, as well as at least 5 others, to determine the authenticity of the body of the painting. This new technology and the ability to apply it to the world of art is incredibly helpful to people in the art world like collectors and museum curators. The changes that have occurred in the field of forgery are representatives of the changes that have occurred in both art and science. Art forgery has changed over the years and remained a close companion of art. With its many facets, it has played a role in creating new professional and academic fields. To sum it up, art forgery has been around since art has. The modern obsession with art forgery has led to the creation of these new academic and professional fields, and has allowed art to continue to be interwoven with science. We have also covered the different aspects and definitions within the art world, and specifically in regard to forgery, and that in order to detect a forgery, you need both an artistic eye and science. In John F. Kennedy's speech on the opening of a new college in October of 1963, he said, "If art is to nourish the roots of our culture, society must set the artist free to follow his vision wherever it takes him. Copying the great masters is a part of the world of art and has been its companion throughout the ages."